The alarm buzzed at 6:30 a.m., its vibration shaking the chipped nightstand beside my bed. I groaned and rolled over, silencing it with a tired hand. The soft light of morning barely crept in through the half-closed blinds. Winter still gripped the city, and even my room, tucked in the back of my parents' small apartment, felt like a cold reminder that things hadn't changed. At 31, I never imagined I'd still be living with my parents. But after years of chasing stability, university, internships, and then finally landing a job in the legal department of a mid-sized international firm, I realized stability wasn't something you earned. It was something easily stolen. And, at my office, it was taken from me every single day. My father had already left for his shift at the warehouse. My mother was in the kitchen, quietly preparing a modest breakfast. Black coffee, dry toast, and a boiled egg. "You'll be late," she said softly, handing me the cup. I nodded without smiling. I didn't have the energy. The firm was in a sleek glass building in the city center. From the outside, it looked like the future, shiny, structured, progressive. But I knew that inside, it was anything but. I entered through the security gate, badge clipped to my coat, and headed straight for the 10th floor where the legal team worked. The moment the elevator doors opened, the familiar knot in my stomach returned. "Nice of you to join us," muttered Laura, my department head, with a forced smile. She didn't look up from her laptop. Her voice carried across the open floor just loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm on time," I said quietly, taking off my coat.
"Right.
"Of course." She turned to Helena, the junior analyst, and smirked. Helena laughed too loudly. It had been this way for 2 years. Subtle jabs. Dismissive comments. Being left out of team lunches. Unfair blame during meetings. My opinions ignored. My workload doubled. My wins unacknowledged. At first, I thought I was being sensitive. But now I knew better. I was being bullied. I sat at my desk, second to last by the window, and opened my emails. The first was from Laura. "Your draft of the Clemens merger is below expectations. Please redo. Deadlines are not suggestions." Another email, this time from HR, asking for updates on the compliance checklist. I had already submitted it.
Twice.
I exhaled slowly, clenched my fists under the desk, and got to work. By lunchtime, I hadn't eaten. I couldn't bring myself to walk into the kitchen where Laura and the others sat in their tight circle, laughing over their salads. Instead, I took a walk outside, shivering against the bitter wind, ducking into a bench just off the main road. My phone buzzed. A text from Anna, my friend since university. "Hey, dinner this weekend? You need a break, Elle." I stared at the screen for a while before replying. "Maybe. I'll see." Truthfully, I didn't know if I had the energy for small talk or another night pretending everything was fine. I was exhausted, emotionally, mentally, physically. Dating was impossible. My last relationship had ended 6 months ago, after yet another late-night cancellation. "You care more about that job than about us," he had said. He wasn't wrong, but he also didn't understand. It wasn't about caring. It was about surviving. I returned to the office an hour later. No one noticed I had gone. The final blow came on a Thursday. I had spent 3 days working overtime to prepare a due diligence report for a high-profile client. It was meticulous, footnoted, and formatted to perfection. I submitted it to Laura before leaving at 9 p.m. The next morning, in the team meeting, Laura held up the report. "I'm not sure who thought this was acceptable," she said, waving the printed pages like garbage. "But this is not the standard we expect." My heart dropped. "I stayed late," I began. "Then maybe you need to stay later. We'll be reassigning this to someone who knows what they're doing." The others looked away. No one defended me. I nodded silently, eyes burning. I excused myself and went to the restroom, locking the door behind me. My reflection stared back, pale, tired, defeated. Something cracked. I pulled out my phone, texted Anna. "Dinner."
"Yes."
"Please." Anna lived in a cozy apartment with plants in every corner and books spilling off the shelves. She poured me a glass of red wine and wrapped me in a hug. "You look like you've been living underwater," she said. "I think I have." We talked for hours. About work. About the bullying. About feeling like I was going crazy. You're not crazy, Anna said. You're being emotionally abused. There are names for this. I cried. It was the first time I allowed myself to admit it. Anna helped me research. There were labor protections, even for this kind of bullying. Anonymous complaint lines. Support groups. A therapist who specialized in workplace trauma. I don't have the money for that, I whispered. We'll figure it out, Anna said. And she did. I made my first appointment with the therapist the following week. The office was in a quiet building on the edge of the city. I sat in the waiting room gripping a cup of tea I didn't drink. My leg bounced uncontrollably. When the therapist, Marta, called me in, I felt my throat tighten. But Marta's voice was calm, her presence soft. I know it's hard to be here, she said. Take your time. The first session was mostly tears. I couldn't find the words, but Marta didn't push. She listened, asked gentle questions. And by the end of the hour, I had said out loud, I feel worthless, like nothing I do matters. Marta nodded. That's what happens when your environment breaks you down. But it doesn't mean it's true. The second session was easier. And the third. I started keeping a journal again, something I hadn't done since university. I wrote everything down, each insult, every instance of Laura undermining me, every time Helena mimicked me behind my back. It became a list of proof. A case file. I was a lawyer after all. With Marta's encouragement, I began documenting everything. Dates, emails, meetings. I printed reports, flagged gaslighting comments, even recorded one instance when Laura berated me behind closed doors. An illegal move, perhaps, but one I felt justified in taking. I called a helpline one evening. The woman on the other end sounded tired but kind. We've seen this before. It's more common than you think. She gave me contact details for a labor lawyer who worked pro bono in certain cases. I called. The lawyer, a woman named Christina, agreed to meet me. In our first meeting, Christina was all business. You've got more documentation than most people who come to me. That's good. But you need to be prepared for backlash. HR isn't your friend. I nodded. I was ready. I filed a formal complaint. HR responded with a meeting request. I was instructed not to speak with my team or anyone else until the matter had been appropriately investigated. I sat across from two HR officers and Laura, who wore a neutral expression, calculated, detached. We take all allegations seriously, HR said. But we must also remind you that false accusations can lead to disciplinary action. My mouth went dry. Laura denied everything. Said I had misinterpreted tone and intent. That she had tried to mentor me, but I wasn't receptive. The gaslighting was worse than I expected. But I had my documentation. We'll review all this, they said. In the meantime, you'll be moved to remote work. Temporarily. I welcomed the distance. The next weeks were a blur.
No updates.
Just silence. I worked from my parents' living room, sending emails, trying to hold on. Marta and I kept meeting. One afternoon, she told me, You've spent so long surviving that you forgot you deserve more than just air. Christina updated me. They're stalling. Hoping you'll back down. I won't. Anna helped with my CV. I applied elsewhere. Got interviews. One small firm offered me a freelance role. A journalist reached out. An anonymous tip had leaked. They wanted to speak with me. I agreed. The article went live. Social media exploded. Former employees spoke up. The firm panicked. Laura was placed on leave. HR reached out, suddenly polite. I didn't feel vindicated. But I wasn't scared anymore. My freelance gig became part-time, then full-time. The new firm was respectful. I smiled again. I even went on a date. Just coffee. It was nice. That night I wrote, I am not broken. I was beginning again. A few weeks into my part-time contract, I began to feel something I hadn't in a long time. Stability. The team didn't treat me like I was fragile, but they were respectful. Professional. I was finally being seen for my work, not for how much I could endure. My mother noticed the change first. You're smiling in the mornings now. Marta and I continued sessions. I still struggled with doubt, but therapy gave me tools. Grounding. Confidence.
Power.
Then came the email. Final resolution and internal outcome. A formal apology. Laura had resigned. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. A few months later, I was offered a full-time role. The director called personally. You're invaluable. I hung up and cried. Anna and I celebrated with wine and pizza. We laughed until it hurt. You climbed out, she said. It nearly killed me.
But yes.
I did. I began writing essays. One was published on a mental health blog. Comments poured in. I thought I was alone. You gave me the courage to report. I wasn't just healing. I was helping. That man from the coffee shop? His name was Dario. Gentle.
Steady.
He didn't fix me, just stayed beside me. You're fire, Elena, he said. You burned your own path. I believed him. Now I look back and see a woman who said no more. Who stood tall, even when trembling. I'm not perfect. My anxiety whispers. But now I speak louder. If you're stuck, exhausted, invisible, know this. There is a way through. You deserve better. And like me, you can begin again.